everyone, welcome to my talk about charming your communities. I'm super jazzed to be here presenting to you online today. Charming your communities is something that I've been doing throughout my career, so being able to share this with you right now is really cool to me, so let's get started. As a brief introduction, my name is Victoria Tran. I'm the community director at Innersloth. We make a game called Among Us and also the Henry Stickmin collection. Previously, I was the communications director at Kit Fox Games, and they make games like Boyfriend Dungeon, Publishing, Dwarf Fortress, Paparazzi, Mondo Museum, a ton of things. And I think one of the things that I want to point out is that in all of these games, charming your communities is something that I try to do in any single thing I touch. But yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at the VTran. I'm always there. I am too online, as we all are, but we move on. So Can You Pet the Dog basically created an entire cultural revolution in games in 2019. It's a Twitter account made to answer one simple question. In this video game, can you pet the dog? Unless it's Casual Friday, then it's about petting various other creatures, but it's a simple account all about the charm and joy about finding a pettable creature in a game. So what is it about this tiny moment that has garnered over 480,000 followers and inspired various video games to include dog pats in their system? It's that the pat is a joyful yet often overlooked or missed point in the game experience, and it's charming as heck. So my work often involves throwing around a lot of words that I realize sound like huge, lofty ideals, right? So kindness, compassion, connection, positivity, belonging, etc. I get it. I get that these words seem amorphous and frivolous. How are you actually supposed to do that? And is it even practical? Well, arguably, yes. I don't know what I'm doing. But the work that goes behind creating kinder, better communities aren't grand gestures of glamorously paraded moments or anything. They're really small daily activities and experiences that trigger larger change over time. So unlike things like straight follower numbers or more metric-based things, these are closer, more personal moments. And remember, what's easy to measure doesn't always mean it's actually super important. So let's talk about delightful moments in games and online communities. So these aren't the huge integral main stage moments I'm talking about, not the subversion of the Stanley Parable or the satisfying gunplay mechanics of Destiny 2. These are small moments kind of similar to Easter eggs, but not quite, that can charm your communities in and outside of the games themselves. So really quick agenda, we go into the what, the why, the how of charming your community so you get a better sense of it, and then a little bit of a conclusion. So what? So what does charming a community even mean in this case? So if you've worked in marketing, you've probably seen the marketing funnel or something very similar to this. And it's basically a funnel that shows how people take a desired action. So whether that's buying your game, wish listing on Steam, signing up to your newsletter, that sort of thing. It all goes from this. And it's very audience-based. Basically, it's very top-down approach, right? You spread your net as far and wide as possible, and then you kind of narrow it down. Charming communities is about community-first building, and that kind of means flipping that funnel on its head or on its bottom. It means flipping the funnel. So it's starting small and focusing on creating a truly integrative environment and place that cares about each other, which in turn helps your studio scale and sustain itself. So what we want is to create groups of people who keep coming together over what they care about with member-to-member interactions. So this is versus just building an audience. So audiences, while these individuals may all share an interest in your content, they don't actually have a relationship with each other. There's no mutual concern and there's no real coming together. And that's kind of different from when we charm communities and when we go community-first approaches. So charming communities is purposefully creating a warm, vibrant experience that people will associate with your studio. The specific feelings can vary, but I'm usually referring to qualities like playfulness, delight, positivity, earnestness, attention to detail. And charming your communities involves staying aware of community sentiment and member experiences, putting time and energy into finding special moments worth a little bit of extra investment. All right, but we've heard that. Why? Why does this even matter? And for one, creating intentional, authentic, and warm community spaces is always something that we should aspire to as community developers and as people who have the privilege of creating the kind of tone and environment that we have, that people gather in, because that's a very cool thing that we get to do. The sense of connection that stems from feeling included and welcome creates a true sense of togetherness, which is something that community devs all work really hard for. And charming communities isn't just about that, though, if you're like not into all the touchy-feely positive things. It really helps integrate individuals into the community. When people first hear about your game and you, it doesn't mean they're part of your community yet or that they even want to participate in it. It just means that they know who you are. They may share an interest in your game, but they have no relationship with each other, no connection. And again, that's not what a community is. That's just an audience. One of the core responsibilities of community developers is to figure out how to welcome strangers into their spaces. And I think of this as the community integration journey. Ooh. So we can split up the community journey into 4 stages. There's new members, regular members, loyal supporters, and advocates. So new members, these are the people that have just discovered your game, maybe just plopped into your Discord, or are curiously scrolling through your Steam page or website after hearing about it. They can kind of be characterized by it's really difficult to actually make them take an action. So buying your game, joining your community, getting invested in the studio, and they can be completely turned off by your studio, the developers, or your games if they have a first bad experience. And once they're gone forever. Next, you have the regular members. So these are people who choose to stick around for a bit after playing your game. So if your game is still in development, maybe they hang around your community spaces passively or throw you a follow to casually be kept up to date. So they come more than once, but there's no reason to really choose your game over another or get it if another similar game comes out, or if it's not on sale or something. And it's not particularly attached to your community space over another place. Next, you have your loyal supporters, and they're invested in your community and the game's development, which is great. And these community members have invested a significant amount of time into your game and are committed to being a part of the game's journey. Even if there's other competition out there, they're still likely to come back to your game or still have a certain place in your heart for your work. So their main characteristics is that they'll usually choose your game or community space over another, but they can be whisked away if another studio comes around with a better game and they get dragged into the hype. And the point here is that when you have a community and you create a community around your studio is that they'll be around for more than one game, and they'll want to support you as merch comes out and all that kind of thing. And then Next, you have the advocates. These are members who are active participants, contributors, and helpers, and they are everything in communities. They're the future mods. They're gold. They help us create the communities that we strive for, help other members become healthier, wiser, and more autonomous. Their main characteristics really consist of word of mouth. They tell their friends to join. They tell their friends about your game and that they should play it. They're more credible to any friends and contacts when it comes to game recommendations, vouching for decisions, or, helping you out within the community. They provide a lot of feedback and empower you to do better. And they really importantly, they welcome people into the community and actively want to help them. Having people who can actively, integrate other community members, further along the journey, amazing, fantastic. So as a community director, developer, manager, we need to ask ourselves, how do we move community members along in this process? So there are a number of ways to do this, right? The game experience itself, the community surrounding it, merchandising, marketing, etc. But one of the most meaningful ways to garner goodwill, and also pretty cheap sometimes, towards your studio is by charming them with positive experiences, which I'll explain how to do further down. More importantly, it'll make your community a healthier and more pleasant place to be in. A community where members feel listened to, heard, and like they truly interact with the developers and each other's really helps create a deeper sense of trust and understanding. So game development is wrought with issues for sure, but a community that supports each other through it is everything and a great motivator. Creating charming communities or charming moments not only deepens bonds, but can be a way we community managers and developers reflect back to our players that we appreciate them and want to put some extra effort in to show that. All right, we've gone through all that, and now we finally get into the how, which is how do we charm communities? So many people falsely assume that more time spent in your community equates to a better relationship. But time is really vague and shaky. You know, how much is enough time? Does more time automatically equal better quality relationships? Basically, time isn't a great indicator of how much you actually have positive feelings towards someone. So as an example, think of a relative that you may dislike, but you've known all your life versus someone that you just met that you felt instantly connected to. Many relationships don't grow predictably, so we need to think about the best way to encourage positive community connections. And that's by creating meaningful moments. I don't know why I'm doing these hand actions. And the best part is we can design for these moments, right? We don't have to just hope that these moments happen by chance. And honestly, we shouldn't wait for it. But community managers and developers in particular are well suited for this because we're the ones that are closest to the community, their needs, their wants, and inside jokes. And we can help make those few seconds or minutes that elevate an experience and connect the players. Being part of an exceptional moment makes being a part of the community meaningful, and that makes a truly strong community. So, side note here, charming your communities must still be backed up by actually fulfilling at least their core needs. So players can forgive small problems, small bugs, but no amount of charming moments can necessarily save a game that, completely disappoints, breaks entirely, has shady studio practices, disappointing customer service, that kind of thing. Good relationships are always built on trust and respect. All right, so now how do we actually create moments that are joyful and transformational? So in the book, The Power of Moments by Chip Heath and Dan Heath, they outlined the three main ways moments, kind of stand out to us. And that's peaks, pits, and transitions. For now, I'll focus on how we create peaks, which are the delightful, positive emotions that are associated with a moment. And as far as charming your communities go, this is probably the moment that you'll be consistently aiming for. So generally, peak moments are created when you make one or more of these experiences in an interaction, according to the book. So there's elevation, which are surprising events and extraordinary experiences. There's insight, which is kind of shaping the way someone sees the world. Connection, creating meaning or deepening ties with others. And finally, pride, which are significant milestones or being recognized by others that you respect. So when building a community, you don't want just a neutral community experience with no complaints. We want to elevate our communities to feel engaged and motivated to participate. That's when your players start to feel like a true community and begin to encourage, support, and connect with each other. So I'm going to dive into ways I've created moments, but keep in mind that everyone's personality, game genre, studio vibe, values, humor, and community are just completely different and contextual. What works for me might not work for you and vice versa. It's all about finding your own voice. And also remember that these examples may include one or more of the experiences listed here within them. It's not just mutually exclusive. All right, so elevation is all about surprising events, creating extraordinary experiences, and or breaking out of like a prescribed expectation of how things should be. I like really silly, chaotic, kind of inconsequential jokes in my work. So moments of elevation are one of my favorite things to do. So when I'm trying to elevate, I think, what are people expecting me to do? How are things usually done? And how do I break past that routine? And I guess less professionally, you could consider this, what is something super dumb that would bring me the most enjoyment right now? So some examples of this. Breaking routines. This is when I was sending out a newsletter when I was working on Boyfriend Dungeon, and there is basically a cat as one of the playable characters in the game. And in the newsletter, I normally send these newsletters out in the voice of the characters. And when it became the cat's time to send it, I was like, why don't I just send an email marketing newsletter full of meowing and not actual words, and there's no real marketing put into it. And that's that. That was the marketing message, which was meowing. And it really worked. It plopped a ton of meows into the text, and a lot of people expected a typical marketing newsletter, and instead I just filled their inboxes with meows. And if you can't read the text on here, it says, "Hey, Kit Fox, just wanted to say I love this mail. I've been enjoying these mails every time they came in, but this just subverted my expectations amazingly. Keep up the amazing work." That was really nice. Another way I like to elevate moments is community spotlights. So spotlighting community members as part of the game or outward-facing communications is a ton of fun, even more so if you spice it up in like normally overlooked areas of your communications. I think of it as like a fun reward for paying attention to something that people often scroll past. So as an example, these are the Among Us Steam reviews that I took just from people talking about it. Like, it's great. 10 out of 10, Among Us is a game. There's also fun details. I love adding small little quirks into anything I do. The reason this works so well is it shows off a little bit of personality, right? Highly specific details bring a little bit of spice to the table, whether that's yours specifically or the entire studio's. So in Boyfriend Dungeon, for example, the healing item is bubble tea because we all love bubble tea. And if you scroll through the paparazzi store page, I added an entire section at the bottom just for dogs. Very exciting. There's also a secret role in the Among Us Discord that opens up a pretzel stand channel born from an inside joke between the moderators. You can't do anything in it. It just has a picture of a pretzel. It's there. It's just there. Also, shout out to Xbox for the way they handled the leak of their Xbox Series X. They sort of just owned their own leak, which was extremely amusing. And when we go into insight, like world-shaping moments of insight are harder to create as these are deeply personal. These may also work with certain games too, depending on the subject matter. For instance, I'm not entirely sure what kind of self-actualizations people are having when they play Among Us. Unless we count, some people realizing they're really good at murder and betrayal. But I do have another example from a past experience with Boyfriend Dungeon when we were running a booth at a convention, and I got this email a few days later, and I got permission to share it. But it's basically someone who was really happy that we used their correct pronouns during the convention, and that was really sweet to see. It's an email that I love very much, hold deep in my heart. Purely thinking of charming communities and creating special moments as a marketing ploy is a huge disservice to the underlying principle of what I'm trying to convey, by the way. That caring about others and creating true connections has meaning to it. If we can create kinder spaces in the places in the spaces we create and work in, people can form real bonds they couldn't otherwise. And I really hope those connections help them face the outside world too. So when we talk about experiences of connection, I think of them as having direct ties or roots to the community. So inside jokes, right? So Lucifer Within Us, another game I worked on, has a collectible achievement named Devil's Herb, which is a running gag in the Kitfox Games Discord over the fact that I really hate cilantro, and other people loved it. So it became this whole like battle between the Discord and the community. It's really fun because the community knows they had a tiny hand in a part of the game, which was the Devil's Weed achievement. The good thing about the cilantro trope too was it delighted others who haven't participated in the community, and it really pulls in an element of unexpected levity. I've also talked about the Among Us Twitter account in previous things I've done, but this is all about connection and responding frequently. I try to respond as much as possible to any random tweets. And this is one of the quickest ways I've created charming moments. And I do it because I know how strong those moments of recognition have been for me. Way back before I got my start in games, I tweeted at Juicy Beast that I loved their game and they liked my tweet, but somehow even knowing they saw my tweet made me really happy. And I still remember it now, years later. And these moments of insight can also form when we ground parts of our work in reality and common moments that many of us have experienced, such as in Hitman 3 and having, talking about relationship troubles. Creating moments of pride is about recognizing the work and effort people have invested into you and the community. So the simplest way I do this is to, again, comment on as many pieces of fan art or user-generated content that I see, whether that's on Twitter or TikTok, that sort of thing. It can be simple as a kid's drawing or 3D short animation. Supporting and lifting up the community is a great way to charm them. And sometimes it doesn't even need to be directly related to fan art, right? So I interacted with Twitter users regardless of follower count, and a particular funny reply from one user got me roping in Xbox into the jokes, and it really spawned a really amusing thread for the whole community to take part in. And the best part was seeing the poster's reaction to it all. Think about moments in your own life outside of games. Feeling like you matter or are seen is charming in practically any context, and it's a big idea of, charming communities. If that can brighten someone's day, I'm happy to do it. And to be perfectly clear, not all peak moments have to be funny in order to be charming or meaningful. Remember, it's all about finding your own voice and one that fits your community and game. For example, co-op mode has a wonderfully sweet tone in their communications, which fits their playful cinematic games, such as Goodbye Volcano High. And Darkest Dungeon leverages their thematic dark undertones in their communications to match the game perfectly. And truly respecting, caring, and being a part of your community will better set you up to be able to connect with them. All right. I talked a lot. And now we're in the conclusion. I forgot. Sorry, I just noticed that I forgot to change that slide subtext. But we move on. So charming your communities isn't about better marketing. Thinking of it that way completely eradicates the core idea of why we as community builders want to make moments matter, to connect, delight, and foster a true sense of meaning in being together. And one reason it is so hard to build a peak or to make moments or to charm communities is that it's actually really no one's job to do it, and it's a hassle and it's never urgent. But putting in that time really does matter and pays off. Eliminate the values and you'll get the cold kind of silence brand moments that we all hate so much. And community-led growth is all about investing time, cultivating and caring for the members that join early on and charming them into loving what their community stands for and spreading that to others. This rings true for communities of all sizes, as far as I know, as far as I've worked on. And there's no point, no sustainability, and no joy in having a community you don't particularly enjoy interacting with or that you feel don't care about you. By creating moments, we as developers can build stronger ties, a mature community, and grow together. Basically, I really love communities. I love these spaces because I see them as true places to find genuine love and understanding and connection. Sorry, I've said that word so many times, with others. There is a space where compassion and ethics can fuse with technology, and I hope we can continue to give more consideration to it. And I think a good way to start is to think of how we can make delightful little memories for each other. Thank you so much for listening to my talk. I hope you enjoyed it. I will probably be in chat to answer any questions. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, week, month, year, etc. Bye.